Hi, my name is Rico Barra, and today I'm going to be making a presentation about microplastics. The three concepts we will be covering are introduction to microplastics, biological impact of microplastics, and important and solutions of microplastics. For the introduction of microplastics, they are basically tiny plastic particles that are the outcome of larger particles breaking down. For example, a water bottle in the ocean, it can break down over time, turn into super small, tiny plastic particles. They can be harmful to our ocean, they can be harmful to our aquatic life like fish, or our land life like the birds who eat the fish. And they can be harmful to our human lives if they end up in our water systems or in the food that we eat. They also serve as carriers for other harmful things like pesticides from agriculture or whatever other chemicals used that can be eaten by marine life and end up in our bodies as we eat them for food. They are also smaller than 5 millimeters, which is very small, and sometimes we can even miss it because our naked eye can't see that well. Tiny pieces cause big problems affecting our oceans, aquatic life, and even our human health. There's two types of microplastics. There are primary microplastics, which are tiny plastics that are made on purpose. For example, glitter used for arts and craft, and tiny beads in some toothpaste. Secondary microplastics come from bigger plastics that break down. For example, when a plastic water bottle turns into tiny bits in the ocean. How do microplastics enter our environment? There's various ways that microplastics can enter our environment. For example, in the clothes that we wash, that made from man-made materials that contain super tiny plastic fibers that come off and go into the water systems. Or the tread from the tires as they wear down from driving on the road that leave these tiny plastic particles onto the road that can be picked up by the wind and washed into our water systems. Plastic water bottles, for example, when they break down, they turn into smaller pieces, becoming microplastics that end up in our oceans, our water sources that we drink from, that we shower from. Packaging, for example, candy wrappers, supermarket plastic bags, Amazon packaging, they can turn into plastic tiny bits over time. Makeup such as face washes and even toothpaste that has tiny plastic beads in them. Fishing nets, when they get lost or thrown away, they can break apart into smaller pieces in the ocean, and you've seen pictures of turtles being trapped in fishing nets, or they just mistakenly take it for food and they eat it. These are very pictures examples of microplastics, for example, from the tiny materials that clothes are made from, the tread from the tires. As you can see from here, the sun is beaming down on them, and slowly over time they will disintegrate into smaller pieces. Plastic bottles showing up washing ashore from the beaches, or just over time turning into microplastics that ended up in our water systems. Packaging, makeup, and the fishing nets. There's about 11 million metric tons of plastic waste, including microplastics, that end up in our oceans every year. And here are the primary sources I use for my slides. For each respective slide has a respective source, as well as two more sources that I use for context. And each image in the presentation has right under it the source for where I got the pictures from. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kevin Giz, and today I'll be talking about the biological impacts of microplastics. How microplastics affect living organisms. So, microplastics have greatly been affecting the marine life. Basically, we're affecting their home, which is the ocean, and a lot of fish have been experiencing a lot of intoxications of microplastics, and it has affected them through their hormonal changes, as well as infertility, males developing ovaries, which is very uncommon, tumors, fish getting very sick, so they get a weakened immune system, fish getting genetic defects, which we've witnessed a lot recently, and as well as fish not being able to digest food properly due to the inflammation of stomach lining. So this is a major problem because we are infecting their homes with microplastics, and fish obviously need their gills to breathe. So those microplastics also get stuck in their gills, and it's very difficult for those fish to breathe properly and live a plentiful life that they're supposed to be living. The main animals that are affected are basically all of them, but it would all start with the planktons. Planktons begin to eat the microplastics, thinking that it's food source for them, but at the end of the day, it's not. And then obviously the other fish that eat the plankton, such as crabs, mussels, um, whales, rays, basking sharks, you name it. They eat these smaller fish, which are infected by these microplastics, and then they become sick. So it's kind of like a recurring cycle that just happens over and over again, and it just never ending. It basically gets worse and worse. Here's the cycle of the microplastic digestion, where it begins from the small little planktons, crustaceans, mussels, to all the way to even seabirds, because seabirds are now eating the fish that ate, the plankton, and it just continuously gets worse and worse because these seabirds now get infected, and they also, experience the same intoxications where they might be a weakened immune system. They also might develop, mutations in the case, or just like it's a whole cycle where it just gets worse and it doesn't benefit anyone at the end of the day. How microplastics affect human health. So us humans, obviously we eat seafood, we eat sushi. So when we eat these fish that, although they have been processed and cleaned, quote unquote, we cannot get rid of all the microplastics inside of the fish. Essentially, we saw that through the biology lab that we had recently, that although we do put water through a filtration system or stuff through a filtration system, some microplastics still are able to sneak through, and at the end of it, we still digest them. As well as plastic packaging of food. If we leave a water bottle in the car too long, the plastic tends to melt inside of the water, and then we digest that. As well as the plastic packaging, like I said, of food. And when we leave a food outside that's been wrapped, in plastic, like chips and whatever the case may be, we leave it outside, it melts, and then the plastic is now in the chip, and we're eating it. So this can cause effect on our bloodstreams, our lungs, our internal organs, such as our liver not functioning properly, our kidneys not being able to filtrate the liquids in our body, our gut biomes not being able to break down and digest the foods that we need to do, as well as brain inflammation, which is a major, major one, causing brain fog. It may cause to long-term effects such as dementia, Alzheimer's, um, maybe even tumors, cancer, you name it. So these microplastics cause harmful effects. Humans approximately ingest a total of 5 grams of microplastic a week. So if you do math throughout the year, you're basically eating a whole bucket of straight plastic, and it sounds horrific. It's not the best thing, but it is a sad truth that we live in. So here are my citations. I have my citations from my imagery that I showed throughout my slides, as well as my primary sources for my slides where I got my information from. And thank you.
Hello, my name is Pablo Arellano, and I'm here to talk about part 3 of microplastics. In this chapter, we're going to essentially see the key aspects and solutions for this matter. Microplastic importance for biology and daily life. As my teammates previously mentioned, microplastics are tiny particles that come from larger pieces of plastics. These particles are known for their non-biodegradable nature, which basically means they cannot be processed by any enzymes or chemicals in the body. So this means that the particles are able to affect and damage DNA, but that will be in a long-term process. In a short-term process, these particles can be consumed by our marine life, by marine organisms. They can cause physical pain to physical harm. In order to prevent microplastic pollution, we have to see this matter as a community problem, since no company or government will be able to solve this issue if they're working by themselves. We need to work in our households and be able to reduce plastic consumption and production. So that's why it says that it has to have individual and collective actions. For the individual actions, we have reducing plastic use, and specifically single-use plastic, which means plastic bottles or plastic bags, because this will reduce microplastic ingestion. Oh, sorry. For water consumption, buying a filter will be the best way to avoid microplastics at all in your water. and especially avoiding water, like water bottles from Walmart and stuff like that. Then overwashing your clothes, like there's like type of like some type of clothes have like fragments that they might have like microplastics or fragments. So overwashing your clothes will make like these fragments break down and they go into your water system. So don't overwash your clothes, wash it like normally. Then we have for the collective actions, we have recycling. That's the best way to reduce plastic and it's the best way to prevent like plastic pollution, but basically like prevent it away from our seas. So let's keep plastic in its place. Then when it says in the second part over here, promote consumerism awareness, that basically means that we need to be aware of the amount of trash we produce and the amount of products we consume. Because this can like heavily increase the amount of microplastic we consume in our own, the amount of microplastic we ingest and that we can find in our environments. Finally, when it says introduce a circular economy, this has anything to do with money or to like taxes. This is basically saying that we should encourage our industries and tell our small business to start using like reusable or like practical like repurposed products. This can be like tote bags and those type of packaging. So take action against microplastics. As I said, this is something that you should practice individually and collectively in your house and out of your house. This is a problem that can affect you in your surroundings, which is mean your households, the amount of microplastics you consume, or the amount of microplastic you can send into the environment. We can all work together to reduce the growing harm that microplastic poses. Sharing this information, sharing this information is essential to keep our community safe and clean from microplastics. So if you want to help or want to have any type of participation in this matter, we have in-campus programs like the Mapping Microplastic programs, which is designed to promote students' engagement in microplastic reduction. They basically uh, send students into the Miami Plastic Patrol and put them in real life scenarios with a mix of lab environments. Um, Here are some sources about microplastics from the FIU library. And then if you're looking something out of campus, we have the Miami Waterkeeper Crew, which runs several impactful programs focused on cleaning water and pollution prevention. These are all the citations from Part 3. Thanks for watching.